It's really funny that you have a jean jacket on because I literally just have this random jean jacket sitting next to me and I feel like I should put it on now. That would be like kind of match. What's up guys? Amanda Smith here with Allison Williams. Okay, so I don't know if you remember me at all, but we actually met before at the women's...
Yeah, wasn't it in, was it Louisville or Lexington?
Yes, Lexington. You do remember. I told you I geeked out so hard because I remember like so specifically sitting there and you walked right past me and I was like, Allison Williams. I just like have been a fan of yours for so long. I think you're so excellent. And you were so nice to me and you took
you're so
time. No, you were. You took the time to talk with me after the game. So thanks for that and thanks for doing this with me now.
Of course, least I can do. I'm happy to. I always like to meet people who are aspiring professionals in this business, and you were so kind. So I'm glad that it all worked out and glad we connected.
So you've been at ESPN now since 2011?
Yep, 2011.
So when you had other jobs, before that, did you always think like, okay, this is where I want to be?
Yes and no. I think you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself like, okay, this is the network I want to work for or fail, right? But I knew I wanted to grow within the industry and within the business, and I knew I wanted to do bigger and better games. Like, it's funny, all the time when I worked for CSS, who I first worked for out of college, and a little bit Fox Sports Florida, but primarily CSS at first, and people would ask what I do, and I'd tell them, and they'd be like, oh, well, what's your goal? And it was always the same. I was like, my goal is just to do what I'm doing, but bigger and better. We all want the best games. We all want the biggest platforms. But for me, I was making a living in this industry. And even on my last flight, when I was on my way to Dallas, the woman sitting next to me asked what I do. And I told her, and she's like, all right, well, what's your goal? It's funny, like, better, and to do bigger and better games. So, with that being said, ESPN tends to offer that opportunity more than a lot of other networks. So it wasn't, like I said, I only want to work for ESPN. I don't want to work for CBS or NBC or Fox. But I knew I wanted to continue to grow and do bigger and better games. And I knew ESPN would be a great company and platform.
Since you've been with them and having those kinds of opportunities to grow and work on yourself in your career, has there been a moment just throughout the years where you feel like it really pushed you to grow, not just as a journalist, but as a person?
Yeah, I think you're always looking for those moments. It's don't always go as planned, and the trajectory you see for yourself isn't always the one that's in store. And so I think when opportunities come your way or don't come your way, you have to take those moments to kind of be introspective. What am I doing well? What am I not doing well? How can I be better? How is this role changing that I need to grow with it? I mean, that's something I'm still trying to do as we become more like social media based. Like, that's not really something that I naturally... Well, I'm like trying to force myself to do these things because I've realized now this is part of connecting fans, and it's essentially become part of the job, which for a long time, like, I kind of thought that. I mean, I had to have somebody that I was working with at the time. We were doing like this online fantasy football show, and they're like, you have to have Twitter. I'm like, no, I don't need Twitter. I don't want Twitter. And they're like, no, like, literally, if you want to do this job, you have to, because it's how we promote our show. So I fought it for a long time, but I've learned, like, you have to be open to the way things are evolving, because otherwise they're going to evolve without you and you're going to be left behind. So I don't know if there's like an exact moment that I can say it's really changed as a person or as a journalist, but I think it's just always being open to change and realizing you have to be willing to evolve, never sacrificing any of your core principles, of course, but you have to be willing to evolve, because it's a changing medium and industry. I mean, it's changed in so many ways. I got into this crazy world.
What do you think, besides the whole more digital presence and social media platforms, what would you say is another change that you've seen just throughout your career?
Well, even just in the sideline role specifically, when I started, it was very much focused on human interest kind of fluff stories, right? So you really just read articles, talked to players, and added in bits and pieces about them throughout a broadcast. Now it's the majority of what I do is what I see and what I hear. It's old eyes and ears. Like, people have been saying that for years, but when I first started, it was really have my list of 10 stories, and I would go through the game and try to get them in as appropriate as, like, different players made plays. and became storylines within the game. I have a human interest component now. That's such a small part of what I do. The hardest part of my job and the most important part of my job is now being able to accurately and quickly and get a sense of what is going on that the cameras can't see and the announcers up in the booth can't see. So that's like the number one part of my job, where 10 years ago, I mean, this is my 12th season on college football sideline. 12 ago was very different. That just wasn't the expectation. I mean, shoot, half the games I did, I was hardwired. So it was really all about preparation. The prep is the majority of the work, but it's just a different type of preparation now.
So interesting that you say that too, because I remember when I was talking to you and kind of asking, for advice on how you really form good teams, you said you really listen to your analysts throughout the game.
The best part of being a good interviewer is it's something that people take for granted, but it's so important on so many levels. Like I can't emphasize it enough. You have to listen to the person you're interviewing. You have to listen to your coworkers. You need to listen to what's going on around you. So it takes a little bit of time, but you get to the point where like you can hear one thing in one ear and one thing in the other, and you kind of learn to process both and process them rapidly. But I think being a good listener is something that we can always get better at, because the knowledge is all around if you're open to it.
Okay, the quick little game of superlatives. Did you ever win a superlative in high school?
Yes.
So much
I won. The one I remember, yeah, right. No, the one I remember, I was super fan. I was definitely a super fan. I was a few other ones, but that was the one I was most proud of, because I did not miss a football game or basketball game in high school, and so I was voted biggest super fan.
Oh my gosh, you were in the yearbook. I never made it. You work with a bunch of athletes and coaches. Out of all the sports, which athlete do you think would be like the class clown?
Of any sport, it would be hockey players, without question. Definitely hockey players.
Why?
They're just goofy. They're pretty much all crazy, I think. Hockey players. Like, if you've been around a hockey locker room, you would know why the guys are constantly pulling pranks, always clowning, always laughing. Yeah, they're a different bunch.
Okay, which mascot would be the life of the party?
Oh, the Philly Fanatic. No question. It's not even close.
Most dynamic duo.
I'm going to go Brock and Bob, that I do college football with, because they are polar opposites, and they butt heads, but they're like brothers in that sense, because they love the hell out of the other. So yeah, I'm going Brock and Bob.
Which coach is most likely to be president?
I'm going Mac Brown, even though he's a former coach, retired coach. He is the most politician-like that I've worked with coach-wise, but in a good way, because he knows everybody, remembers everybody, shakes hands, everybody loves him, everybody wants to talk to him. He's charismatic. He can entertain a room, talk to anybody. So I would go Mac Brown.
Okay, I want to get to some of the questions that you guys had for Allison. Ronnie509 wants to know, who do you think right now is the most underrated team in college football?
All right, so I'm going to go with an ACC team that is undefeated, but has had a really weak schedule, but I think still will surprise some people once they get into the meat of their schedule here, and that's NC State.
The Good Vibe 365, speaking of college football, wants to know, is Syracuse for real?
Yes, the question for Syracuse, though, is like, what is for real? Like, what is the expectation of them? Do they need to get to Charlotte in the ACC championship game? Probably won't happen, but I think they're much improved. Dino Babers' system is one that has been tried and true, and I think works really well for them and Eric Dungy.
Duke Boy 100, speaking of ACC, What do you like most about your job?
I like all this ACC stuff. I love being able to share stories with athletes and teams and be kind of part of it. I get paid to watch college football. I get paid to go to college basketball games. It's pretty awesome. But the best part about that is, through those experiences, you get to meet and, oops, I'm getting a call. Send the voicemail. You get to meet. Oh, I don't know who it is. You don't want that. But yeah, you get to meet so many people and find out their stories, and then have this awesome platform to share those stories is really, really special.
Colmards 17 wants to know, what made you fall in love with sports?
I don't ever remember falling in love with sports because I don't not love the sports, if that makes sense. Like, they were part of my childhood. It was something I did with my family in the backyard, with my cousins, with my sisters. It was just a part of my life, like around, Sundays with the Lions on, Thanksgiving, like family time kind of revolved around it. And so, yeah, it always what we did. For me, honestly, like, I loved football. And then it was like through loving football that I fell in love with other sports. And I played sports growing up, none of them very well. But I played just about everything. So I just always kind of gravitated to them. And I loved the team aspect. So yeah, it was probably the time I had with my family in the backyard playing football. And then the way it also allowed you to meet people and form friendships and have that camaraderie as a kid playing sports. I mean, there's nothing better than it.
Okay, Tyler Gillespie 10 would like to know, how have you handled negative feedback?
I would say take it with a grain of salt. A lot of it depends where it's coming from. I mean, if it's like somebody at home on Twitter bashing like the way I look or something, well, I'm going to be dismissive of that. But if it's constructive feedback, if it's from bosses or peers or people I respect, or that type of negative feedback, then I welcome that. I think that's the only way to get better. I think you have to be open to the good and the bad. I mean, none of us are perfect. There's always things we can do better. So I take it with a grain of salt. Also, though, because it's always going to be subjective. So what might not work for one person might be exactly what somebody else wants. So I never tried to put too much value in anything, good or bad. It's kind of like, when you hear quarterbacks talking about like getting all blame and all the credit, like you can't fall too much. You can't fall either way, the good or the bad. So the negative feedback I welcome if it's constructive, if it's things I can get better at. And then if it's negativity online, that's just part of the gig, and you just kind of laugh it off. And you have to have thick skin.
I think it goes back to what you said though about, sticking to yourself, but also being willing to evolve.
Yeah, and it's important. Like, we all can do things better in any profession, and you have to be willing to listen to that criticism and work on your craft and continue to grow.
Thank you so much again for doing this with me. This was so much fun.
All
like
right.
I said, I've been such a huge fan of yours. We'll see you on the sidelines for all our college sports.
Awesome. Sounds good, Amanda. Best of luck with everything, and you let me know if you ever need anything, okay?
Thanks, Allison. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
All right,
See you next time.